Hey, I'm Dave, and I'm going to be doing a little bit of a tutorial on how I created this image. I was showing it to some of my friends, and Chris up in Washington said, "You should make a tutorial on that. That looks pretty cool." So hopefully somebody thinks this is pretty cool. It's kind of an interesting image in that it's low light, so we had to deal with that. So I had to make some decisions concerning that. And also, it is not only a panorama, but it's also 5 shots individually of each segment of the panorama. So 25 shots into this image to make it come out like that. So if you're interested in how I did it and how to make, I don't know if it's going to make your panoramas any better or not, but at least, getting into the process of shooting and editing a panorama, and then, the final editing on this piece, tag along. Hope you like it. Hope you learned something. All right, let's get busy. All right, so here we are with the first image of the panorama, obviously. This is the left side. I decided I was going to do 5 exposures, 1 exposure apart for each image. And I did that because I wanted to get, as you can see here, there's a lot of dark and then there's some really bright. So I have really strong contrast. So I really wanted to be able to pull out things like, these highlights without them being burnt out. So this was my base exposure, 14 millimeter f5.6, 1/80th of a second, which is fine for handheld, and ISO 800. I'm shooting with a Z7 II, so ISO 800 is pretty good. 14 millimeter is as wide as I can get on the 1424. The problem here, I think, is shooting too wide and getting a lot of distortion, but there's just no way around it to show as big a space as this is. So we shot everything at 14 millimeters. So here's the first exposure, and then 2 stops under, which is going to give me all my TV elements and everything I need there. And then 1 stop under, which is kind of an intermediate, and then 1 stop over, which is going to give me some clarity in the roof and some stuff there, and then 2 stops over, which is going to give me some really good look into the shadow areas of the arena. So then, just scoot over, do the same thing again there. Then dead center. Notice that I lined up completely on this center point. I had the thing in my viewfinder so that I could line that line up exactly right and get that dead center so that I'd make a good single point perspective, because Tony Coangelo would be really mad at me if I didn't. And there's all those. And then the first to the right and the second to the right. And there's my last exposure. All right. So the first thing I did, and I think you'll all know this, is that Lightroom will do a Pano and an HDR combo and put it together all at the same time. So let's take a look at that. I did do that. Let's see, is that this one? Nope, that is, yeah, this one. This is what Lightroom came up with. And I'll admit, it's not that bad. The problems I found was I thought this was way too yellow over in here. Kind of looks a little HDR-y to me. I don't think, I'm not getting the definition I want way up in here. I just, HDR just doesn't do it for me. I really need to combine the images and make the images for each of the different components in the image that I want, and then put that all together. So what I decided to do was combine the first exposure in each of the 5 shots and make that a panorama, and then do that with the second, the third, and the fourth, and the fifth. And then I would overlay all those panoramas, picking out the different parts that I needed. So as you'll note here, let me see if I can get to the library. Here in this series, you can see I colored them all with the different colors: yellow, green, blue, purple, and red. That way I could keep track of the first, the second, the third, the fourth, and the fifth exposure. So I combined all of these into one panorama, and then all of these into the second panorama, and then all of these into the third panorama, etc. So let's go ahead and bring those in now because I've already done those. Yeah, that's the Pano, and that's a copy of the Pano. Okay, so I started editing with this as my base exposure, and I thought that looked pretty good for just starting out. And then I brought it down just a little bit to bring in that ceiling and the color, because I thought that color was so cool. I wanted to emphasize that ceiling. So I actually made a virtual copy by right-clicking and create virtual copy. Made a virtual copy of this Pano layer and turned it into that Pano layer. Okay, my next exposure is the super dark exposure. And this one, I knew that these were what I was gonna go for. Those, and then I also wanted to get these spotlights up at the top so that they weren't super flaring. So those are what I set this exposure for and made the adjustments for on that. Next layer is the still a stop below. This is what I was going to pull all the video screens from, and you can see they're all very bright, colorful, sharp. Everything looks really, really good there. So good job there. Next exposure is one stop over. That's this one. And I was going to use this for lightening up the shadow area in the lower bowl. It's not bright enough for the upper bowl, but it was good enough for the lower bowl. And I believe I did a change in white balance here so that the yellow came out of it. And then my final was this one, which is glaringly overexposed for the lower bowl, but it brings in the upper bowl just fine and all that. So what I then did was I took all these layers and let's see. Nope. Okay, so I took that. I gotta get a blue one. Where's the blue one? Is that the blue one? The yellow one and the two red ones. Right click and edit as layers in Photoshop. When Lightroom makes its panoramas, they do vary slightly. They don't, even if you are exact precision right on, they're not going to be perfect. So you have to align them. There is, I think it's edit. No, is it layers? Arrange. I can never find it. I don't know where it is. You have to highlight all the layers. And what I've done, because I can never find it, is I've made it F2 on my keyboard. So I just hit F2, and this will auto-align all the layers. I always forget where it's at. So F2, and that'll bring them all in. All right, so here is what I actually built the image from. Let me start from the bottom. All right, so there is our base image. Fairly easy to do. Now my next layer, I'm going to bring in the upper bowl, or the upper part of the lower bowl, and just lighten all that so that the seats come in. And all I did was create a, oh, it's on the wrong layer. There, that's the layer. See, I just pulled that mid part out to kind of lighten all that up. So that was my next layer. And then my next layer is just bringing in the ceiling. See how that just punched up the color a little bit there and made it a lot more interesting. Okay, so for the next layer, what I did was I brought in the ceiling. Then I brought in the upper bowl with the brightest overlay, like that. See that? So I just brought that in gradually. Didn't want it to be overly, knocking you out, but I did want to be able to see up in there. See, that's what it looked like before. just brought that in, and same on this side. Okay, this next layer I believe is, yeah, this is all the super highlights. So this is all the lights up here, as well as the shot clock and things like that that were like point source. So I brought those in and darkened those up and made that look really good. And then the final layer, because it has to go on top, I didn't want any of these other adjustments to influence the color of the screens or anything. And that is this one. So I literally took 45 minutes to an hour and I cut all of these out with the pen tool, just right along the edges right there. All of these above the portals, all of these above these portals here, these back screens, the main screen. I cut all of those in. And so what that's going to look like is this. There we go. So now we have a base image. We have all the exposures set and all the colors set pretty much where I want them. If you want to compare this to what the HDR looked like, let's go. Okay, there's the HDR. And then here's my layering. You can see it's a lot more vivid, and the colors are a lot truer, and our blacks are a lot stronger. All in all, it's just a far better image. I shoot brackets, but I don't shoot HDR. I do all this hand layering to get that richness in that color, and that's how I do that. So anyway, I also like to save at different points. So this would be the point at which I would save and return it back to Lightroom. So if I ever have to go back and fix anything, that's where I would fix it at. So let's close that and don't save. Here, I would have come in and put all my guide marks on that. Did I put them on there? Yeah. So I would have put them on here and then edited this back in Photoshop again. So I found equidistant matching points in the ceiling, and I did a level there, and I did a level straight across the floor, and I put one center line straight up the dead center of the image, and that aligned everything real good. Then I sent that into Photoshop to edit more. So we're going to edit the original. So this is where I would have started this layer at, or this version of this edit. All right. So the first thing I did was I used what is it? Component fill, content aware fill. I filled in the bottom, and obviously that isn't real good. I knew that, and this wasn't real good, but it got me 95% of the way there, and that's fine. So then I combine those to a flat layer, and this is where I did a ton of editing. You can see, yeah, I just went crazy here. First, I fixed all these bottom things. I think I ended up doing something else with this a little later. Anyway, I didn't like what I did here. See, it's an improvement, but it still wasn't really good. But here's where I really go crazy as a commercial photographer. You know, you can see I took a lot of those bright light and distractions. Light is what draws the eye, and so I like to, unless I want the eye to be drawn there, I take them out. So things like the Chick-fil-A logo on the boxes, monitors, you know, I'm not here to advertise Chick-fil-A, so I took those out. Also, the portal entrance monitors had a reflection I really didn't like, so I took all those out. Didn't like those. All the exit signs, oh my God, do I hate exit signs. So yeah, they're gone. What else did I do? I think I did some correction up there. Oh yeah, I took out the sponsor for the night. I'm going to end up putting this jazz logo there, which I think is a lot better. Oh yeah, yeah, this took about 45 minutes. I took out all the people. So that just, that just takes time. And how do you do it? You do a lot of different things. You do cloning, you do swapping, in some areas, I'll show you. I literally would take this side of the court, clone it, flip it, and paste it on this side of the court so that it would match. I actually had to build this center part from scratch. There's a lot of different tricks that I use to make that work. Yeah, let's do some overlays and you'll see some of what I did. Yeah, there's where I made the logo bigger and put it up there. We'll eventually erase that. I think this is a floor fix. I don't know where that is. Let's try this one. Yeah, see how I took this side of the key and flipped it and cleaned that all up, so that looked really good. This should be the same thing. Yeah, this is fixing that little dot right there. So you can do a lot by just copying and flipping, especially on a symmetrical image like this. The thing I love single point perspectives like this, but you have to be dead on straight. I mean, you can't be off even a little bit. So it's really important that you make sure that everything is symmetrical and everything works that way. Let's make this bigger. Let's find out what was this fix. I don't see it. I don't know what I fixed there. I fixed something. And then I did a content aware fill on the top. And again, that was kind of good, but it wasn't perfect. So I did some cleanups and all that to make that work really good. Oh yeah, down here lower left, you can see I fixed that box so it would end up looking clean. And then I smushed everything to another layer again, did all my final little fixes. And to me, this was like as good as this image is gonna get. So I feel that that's a really strong image. And so I would save it, go back to Lightroom again, and then let's see, between that. Okay, yeah, that was just my final bits. I took out the little jazz logo there. I centered everything up. I did my crop so that it was dead center on the center line. I just looked where all my points were and everything looked nice and symmetrical. I think I did a little bit more cleanup down here. But anyway, that's kind of how I did it. That's my mindset, and that is how I created this image. If you have any questions or need some help or some advice, or if I didn't explain something too well or just ran right over it, feel free to give me an email or a call or something. Thank you very much. Hope you learned something.